म्यूट कर दे सबको।
हाँ ठीक है। हर्षद पारेख सर और मिलिंद मोरे सर अपने आप को अनम्यूट कर सकते हैं। मोरे सर आप अपने आप को अनम्यूट कर लीजिए। ओके पारेख सर स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं।
Yeah, okay. Good evening, friends. Today's topic is insights from Krishnamurti's commentaries on living. These books are in 3 parts, and there are many articles, and each article has very beautiful sentences. And these writings are very beautiful writings, and it's Aldous Huxley had encouraged Krishnamurti to write these articles. And Krishnamurti used to meet very ordinary people in 1940s and 50s. And after meeting with these people, Krishnamurti used to write down in his notebooks how this dialogue proceeded. And these dialogues are very short. Each dialogue takes about 3 or 4 pages. And it is not like dialogues with David Bohm or Populji. They were very articulate people. But these people who came to Krishnamurti, they traveled a long distance to discuss with Krishnaji about their particular problem. And each dialogue starts with beautiful description of nature. And when we read this description, we can begin to see the whole scene which Krishnaji saw. So it seems that Krishnamurti's observation was non-verbal and very good, and he had the talent to describe exactly what he saw, even the minute detail of if he saw a lizard or he saw the fields or a bullock cart, villagers, women carrying some burden on their head. All this very beautifully described in commentaries on living. And I like to remind that we are using words here to talk about insight, but the actual insight is non-verbal. That means that when we read something like Krishnamurti, then while reading something, some insight may come, not first reading and then thinking about it and then asking questions, not that way, but while reading something, something strikes us. Or later on, when we are not thinking about what Krishnamurti said, something we, like a light, happens in the brain. So what I am taking some sentences of Krishnaji from article, like the first article is about creative happiness. And in that, Krishnaji describes beautiful ghats of Varanasi, where there are so many activities. He is observing people worshipping gods and many, many things, dead bodies being burned. and all these children playing. And then he goes to Banaras Hindu University and he describes the life of students and teachers in the university. And he feels that this university gives a lot of knowledge, but not the understanding of oneself. And happiness, which is really the real purpose of every human being wants to be happy. So what is the source of happiness? And can we get happiness by searching for it in money or power and pleasures? And in this article, Krishnaji says to be open to the source of all happiness is the highest religion. So here he says that religion is for having the highest happiness, and that happiness comes from knowing ourselves as we are and moving with it. Like he says, self-knowledge is the beginning of wisdom. Without self-knowledge, learning leads to ignorance, strife, and sorrow. So this is what I have observed in my life, academic life, even in the university in Canada and America, where professors, they are very good in their field of knowledge, but they were not very happy. Though they had got many awards, there's a lot of ambition in their work, and but mentally, some of them were not balanced. Like one professor whose office was in front of my office in Canada, and he was a professor of mechanical engineering. And one day he committed suicide because there were some problems in the family or so. And the professor with whom I did my PhD, he had many awards, and he was working day and night to become somebody, very important person in the field of science. And one day his wife and child, they ran away because this professor had no time for his family. And so the wife and child ran away. And then this professor was very unhappy. And then he did not know what to do with his life. And he went back to his own country. And he told me that he would do some social work or something like that. So sometime when people get a shock in their life, they wake up. But then, even then, if they don't turn within to look for real happiness, sometimes they do social work or they get involved in some religious activities like that. So, or some people escape into dreams, in drinking. So, Krishnaji says God and drink are on the same level as long as they are escapes from what we are. So, social activities or religious activity done without self knowledge then it may create more problems. Because when there is a confusion within, then that confusion expresses itself in society. So the first thing we have to examine is ourselves, what is happening. And it is not necessary, like many people who have studied Krishnamurti, they ask some question and then they go into answering those questions. But that is not the way I studied. When I studied Krishnamurti, I did not ask any questions. I read a little bit and then closed the book and then looked within myself, because at any moment there is something going on within us. Even when we get up early in the morning and we know that something is going on, so when we become curious, we cannot stop. Sometimes some song keeps on repeating, and we don't know from why it came. Uh, we may have listened to that song many days ago, and after that, we listen to many songs. But this particular song started coming to my mind, and I don't know, and I don't even try to go into why that particular song kept on repeating. But we can just watch and not do anything about it. That watching without saying it is good or bad, and then that will go away and something else may come. So something is going on in our mind. It's like a train which is moving, train of thinking. And if a real train comes on the platform, we get into the train, take our seat, and we don't move. The train is moving. So similarly, one can get into the train of thinking and don't do anything. And wherever this thinking goes, let it go, not suppress it, not encourage it. Then that thinking may even die. And then there is uh, a space between two thoughts. In that, there may happen something, some insight. So, in the next sentence, Krishnaji says, freedom from conditioning comes with freedom from thinking. So, as long as we are thinking, there is nothing new, because it comes from the memory, and it is old, and that old memories are active in the present, and it is moving like a train. But by chance, if the thinking stops, then there is something called the psychological death, not the physical death, but a thought dies. And Krishnaji says that without death, there is no renewing. Without death, there is no creation. So this is very important part in the teaching, that when the mind stops and there is still alertness and looking at, just feeling the silence, in that I feel that some kind of regeneration of the body and the brain happening in the silence. And that silence, it may not come by waiting for it. And so in the next sentence, Krishnaji says, these sentences are taken from different articles, and there are different kinds of people are coming, but this basic insight which Krishnaji is giving in few sentences is applicable for all human beings who are sensitive and can look inward. So, in one sentence, Krishnaji says to be still, to be silent after tilling and sowing is to give birth to creation. That means this newness, it may not come in our life. We need to look, we need to work hard. We have to maybe make an effort to look inside. But if we keep on asking questions and examining verbally, then the brain can become sharp, but the creation, something new, it may not happen. So one has to be still. And also, we cannot decide to be still, but it can happen. If it happens, and in one sentence, Krishnaji says, what you seek, you will find it, but it will not be the truth. That means when something new happens in our life, it cannot be planned, but under the right state of mind and the right environment, something can happen. And it did happen in my life once. Uh, 2, 3 times it happened. And it was while listening to Krishnaji, and it was in Ojai. And I was listening, maybe for the first time, I listened to Krishnaji with a silent mind. And then something I saw, which was marvelous in that silence. And then few days after that, also in the presence of Krishnaji, where we were not talking, not even looking at each other, but he was around during a music program. Something started happening, which I did not expect. So when something genuine happens in our life, it may happen by itself and it cannot be planned. It is not the result of reading a lot. It is not the result of discussing a lot. But when the mind is really relaxed, silent, in the good state, something may happen. And then there is a freedom from thinking and many problems created by thinking, like jealousy or fear, anger, conflict in relationship. Many problems happen in our life every day. But when this awareness is awakened, And it is not coming and going like that. Like when anger comes, the awareness is there. It can look at anger or fear or loneliness or boredom. Then that looking, it dissolves the problem. So that is why Krishna ji says, in the light of silence, all problems created by thinking get dissolved. That was the topic also for dialogue yesterday with a group from Rajghat School. And out of this freedom uh, and clarity, then comes what is called love, which is not for some person, a personal attachment or attraction, but a state of mind where thinking is not there. There is no sense of I, no self. And in that state, there exists what is called love. And that is why Krishna ji says, love is when the self is not. So, and then really we can feel real beauty in everything. It doesn't mean when I say beauty, it means seeing things clearly. There may be ugliness there too. And like one sees something on the road and one sees clearly and feels like doing something, one does it. So, but it is a clear looking. It's not with the idea of that I want to do this thing, a social work or environmental work, because people will praise me, and that is the way generally people are doing work in politics or business. The idea is that me is very important, and I want praise from people, and then I feel very good. But that kind of happiness will create unhappiness too, a pleasure and pain. Because when that happiness which comes from outside, from other people praising you, or from money or power, they will be taken away. Even our good looks, our talents, they can also go. And so the real happiness, it comes from freedom, freedom from the self. And that is, then we can feel love and beauty, which are not personal, impersonal. And that is why Krishna ji says there is great happiness in not wanting, in not being something, in not going somewhere. So he also says, happy is the man who is nothing. So that it doesn't mean that we must not have money or pleasures. One can have. Krishnaji lived a very nice life, luxurious life, but he was not attached. He was free, and it was coming and he was enjoying it. So one can enjoy the pleasures. If awareness is there, those pleasures will not create pain. And in one sentence, Krishnaji says, to see the truth in false is the beginning of wisdom. Like we may be doing something wrong for a long time. We are going in the wrong direction. And then suddenly we realize that this is not the way. Like I was eating meat and I felt nothing wrong, but it was wrong. It was affecting my health, but I was not looking very carefully or even did not know. But one day I felt I cannot eat meat. I stopped eating meat. I felt wonderful. So when we are going in the wrong direction and we realize not through too much thinking, not through many ideals, because Gandhiji or Buddha or Krishnamurti said, and then we think about it, and then we try to follow, not that way. Insight is not coming from thinking. It comes when it comes under the right condition. And another thing which Krishnaji says, that why our mind is so much chattering. So he says the mind is always afraid of coming to an end. And that is true. That is why people talk so much, discuss so much, ask so many questions. It is maybe it is not silent. And once I told Pupulji also, because Pupulji was very much interested in the dialogue and on dialogue. So for Pupulji and Krishnaji, dialogue is the way of learning about ourselves. Then I asked Pupulji, is there not any other way than dialogue? And it is necessary to ask questions. And I told her that asking question is like dropping a stone in a quiet lake, water, still water. And when you drop a stone like a question, and it creates many ripples, and then you look at those ripples, then we cannot look at the bottom of the lake. So to me, if I want to look at the deepest layer of the mind must be very still, not going in any particular direction, and looking clearly, like clean water. If it's a muddy water of the lake, even if it is still, we cannot see at the bottom. So if we want to look at ourselves very, very clearly, we need silence and awake mind. And that is what Krishnaji's choiceless awareness is. And there are many, many. Have I talked enough? I think I have talked about 30 minutes. So there are many beautiful sentences, and these are very few. There are hundreds of insights in Krishnamurti's commentaries on living, because it's very poetic and very philosophic and very straightforward, um, and not going round and round like with when Krishnaji is talking with intellectuals. I feel that they are too articulate. Whereas these ordinary people who came to Krishnaji, they were very genuine. Their problems were very genuine, and Krishnaji was asking the right question. And then there was a gap in which people begin to see clearly their own problem. So, if we want to understand ourselves, we need to go beyond words and in silent looking, there is newness, freshness, and the continuous regeneration of our brain. And in that, even if we don't do anything, no dialogue, no activity, we feel fresh in looking at anything or nothing, sitting in the room or traveling in the train or talking with people or being alone. And that is the real freedom, freedom from the known. That is also a beautiful book by Krishna. Okay, so I have talked enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Parik Saab. More Saab is requested to speak. More, please.
Yes. I mean, to begin with, I have not prepared anything. But I will certainly share some of my understanding from what Harshadji has just talked about. I think to begin with, what Harshadji has talked about understanding. I mean, one quote which comes to my mind straight away is from Krishnaji is when he said that there is only one kind of understanding, and that is mechanical understanding. Rest is all seeing. And for quite a long time, I used to wonder about this statement as to what does it mean. And I would, being in a school, I would take it with the students also and discuss this in the culture classes as to why has Krishnaji said that there is only one kind of understanding, mechanical understanding, which primarily means operating from knowledge, operating from, the mechanical things, mechanical in the sense of everything that we do in our life. I mean, if you look at it, you can talk about food, shelter, clothing, learning about driving a car or learning about how to make a structure, anything. Now there is mechanics involved in this, and one can learn about all these things from books. One can learn about all these things from the way humanity has grown these aspects of knowledge, which are directly concerning with us, but they are there in the books, they are there in the memory of people, they are there around us to learn and understand. But why did he say that there is only one one type of understanding, that is mechanical understanding? And then when we shift this understanding to understanding in the psychological domain, where can one understand fear through the same way, through the mechanical way? When I say mechanical, my understanding is through the process of thinking, through the process of thought. Can one understand violence? Can one understand greed? Can one understand envy through the process of thinking? And then one starts to see that, yes, I mean, fear is something which is created by thought. Then how can the same process lend itself to understanding what fear is? Then what is it that one can see in fear? And this question, was started becoming very fascinating for me as to how is it, what is Krishnaji saying about it? I mean, how does one see fear? What is the taste of fear? I mean, that was another question which he puts to you. Can you taste fear? Can you taste what envy is? Can you taste what greed is? What is he trying to say through that? Now, one way where I try to look at is can I see this in my own physical self? How do I see fear in my own body, how my body reacts when I'm in fear. It's one thing which Krishnaji has talked about, facing physical fear, but there's another thing of fear of another person, or fear of being unknown, or fear of not achieving that one wants to set about. The fear, there's so many kinds of fear which get generated where your body responds to it. Your body, you can feel it in you in terms of the heartbeat or the pulse rate, or the whole neurochemical system of the body starts responding. Now, that is the first indication, at least I saw in myself, that I can see that part of it, that yes, it is happening. And what is it indicating? What is it saying? Can I see that without putting anything in the words? And I see that, yes, it is possible to sense that. The body has its own intelligence, and much before, I suppose, the thought process kicks in, the sensorial system of a body is giving those signals. So can I see that? Can I be alert to it? Can I be sensitive to it? Now, there is no thinking involved here. There is only sensing. It is only at the sensation level. So this is something which I thought I'll share with, because Harshadji just touched upon this aspect towards the end, and it was quite fresh in my mind. And I find it's very fascinating to explore this seeing part, whether it is fear, or whether it is violence within myself, whether it is greed, or whether it is whatever which is in the psychological domain. And I certainly see that thought has its limitations there. There was another thing which Harshadji just mentioned about, dropping a stone in the pond and then the ripples forming, and you can't see anything. It reminded me of good old days when I was in the Navy, and I used to sail a lot, and I have done sailing in deep seas where the sea used to be very calm, and in the calm seas one can see fishes and sea animals at a very great depth, up to about 100-150 meters. You can actually visually see the fishes and the turtles and many sea animals. And at night, it is so beautiful where you can see all of them scintillating. You see the algae at sea, it really shines at sea, and you can see it at a very great depths. So it is just a metaphor, but I see quite parallel with the way the mind is. I think for a learning mind, it is important that it is quite a learning mind. I think it is the quietness, the silence, that map of how the learning takes place, the overall, the total aspect of learning. It is very important to see that ground is required. If the mind is crowded, then there is no place for any fresh learning or understanding. So these are the two things which immediately come to my mind. I thought I'll first touch upon. There was another thing which Harshadji said in the beginning about happiness, as to that is a general tendency in us as human beings, that we try to seek the state of happiness. Now, I wonder sometimes that whether does really one need to seek that, or is it that it is there already in the nature of our being to be in that state? If it is a state where thought doesn't exist, then isn't it the most natural state in which we are? The whole aspect of thinking, the thought process, we have learned as we grow along. As a child, you are quite free of it, I suppose, in many ways. But as we go through our processes in life, either through the interaction with parents at a younger age, society, the schooling, the whole education system, and thereon, the corruption is already set in. So the ability to, I don't know whether it is an ability, but what we have with us at the physical level, at the body level, at the sensation level, can one be with that sensation and be there and see what happens? I've been fortunate to be in surroundings much of my life, I would say, where life has given me opportunity to be in close proximity to nature. Starting at young age, where I have a rural connection, I was fortunate to be left alone in the woods, fortunate to be left alone in the fields, and just observe things around. My professional life also, I spent much of my professional life at sea, where I would spend hours looking at the sea, at the waves which get created, wonderful sunrises and sunsets. I was fortunate to get an opportunity to work in submarines for a long time, where I worked in very close proximity to human beings. We would be underwater for days together. And it gave me an opportunity to learn about human beings. It gave me an opportunity to see that how each man's action is important by itself, not only for the knowledge that one has, but also because one needs to learn about others' job as well if we have to survive at sea. So the interrelationships, the interconnections which happen among the human beings, especially in an hostile environment, underwater, in enemy's water, and so on. I'll not go into details, but it gave me a very close understanding about human beings, how the mind works. And there were times at sea, metaphorically, when one can say that I had Krishnamurti book on one hand and a weapon on the other hand, and trying to see what each is saying to each other. And obviously, for a long time, I was in conflict to listen, to see what Krishnaji is saying and what I was actually doing in my life. They were totally in contradiction. And I could see that at various levels, whether it is at the ground level or whether it is at the government job level, or as my being in the military or in the government service or at the industrial setup, at every level, I could see that there is a contradiction which I was living. And this from young age to at a fairly senior position, I could see that there is what Krishnaji is saying, that there is no escape from it. So I think the bigger map was slowly becoming clearer. It was being put in the place. And I could see that the bigger map is not meeting where I was. And I think in that sense, the aspects of thought, the nature of the mind, how it works, and what is its position in human life, all these started bubbling. And the more one thought about it, I think it was more confusion. So at one stage, I felt that this is not helping, you see, and one has to look at it differently. And I think coming to a place like Sahyadri, beautifully located, on a hilltop in close proximity to a huge lake, where one could see for far distances, one could see the sun setting behind, one could see the sun rising every day. You could hear the nature the way it is without any disturbance. It has provided a lot of time and space to look at things. And Krishnaji's teachings in that sense make a lot of sense to me now, where he has questioned about the whole existence of thought. Not that it is not required, it has its place, but why do we, as human beings, give it more importance than what it is? It has also opened up a space of unknown, wherein one can see that the known has limitations. it has created limitations in one's life, and it is not so difficult to, through the process of perhaps seeing it, to come to a location where one sees that, at least to a point, as to why one is not crossing the threshold. One can see it, one can sense it within oneself. Perhaps, as Harshadji said some time back, that one has to keep one's window open and leave it at that. When something has to happen, it will happen. It is not to be sought. It is not to be searched. And I think that opportunity is there with each one of us. It is there in each moment that we live, in each relationship. And I'm quite fascinated by this aspect of mirror of relationship. It is the greatest, I think, learning tool which I learned from Krishnamurti's teachings. Learning for me was always learning from books, or learning from some role models, or learning from, the society. But this was something which was greatly revealing when I saw that there is an opportunity in every relationship, not just animated relationships, it could be non-animated relationships, and see that in that relationship, in that moment, there is an opportunity to learn. And it mirrors. It is an instant feedback. It is an instant revelation if I'm alert to it. If I'm not carrying my prejudices, if I'm not looking through my own limitations. So do I see those limitations? So it has opened up many aspects of looking at oneself, which are really fun to be with, I would say. So I think this is it's already 7 o'clock. So
Yeah.
Maybe we can. I would be grateful if I'm asked, if I'm subjected to certain questions, which may drive things more deeper. I'll be glad to be part of it. Yes.
You are welcome. So the group will ask, someone from group will ask.
Dinesh. Yeah, Dinesh, you can ask.
Please unmute and ask.
I would like to discuss with Harshad ji as well as Milind ji why we can't accept like in nature. We talk a lot about nature and looking. We accept the nature as it is. Like nature is having also various contradictions. Like tigers are there, horses are there. There are so many other animals. Similarly, in our mind also, there are different kind of energies, like even confusion, as Gauri said. Are you able to listen to me, sir?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I am able to listen. Yeah.
Yeah. So in mind also, we only focus on or concentrate on the thought. But without thought, we say that there is no thought. This is a hypothetical, or what should we think? This is not what is. Mind is actually having a thought process is a natural process, like other natural processes in the world or in the life. So thought process is also a natural process. Yes, there should be impersonal thoughts. Like Harshad ji said that there a song is repeating in mind. The song is repeating in the mind is impersonal. So that is okay. So, but what I think personally is we should focus more on the source of the thought. If we are able to focus on the source of the thought, I think then something can happen. It's merely looking or even self-knowing. Suppose I know that I am having envy or I am having violence in me. Even that knowing may not make much difference. If it is better, I know if I could focus on the source and I can get some touch of the source. What do you have to say, sir? Sir.
Yeah, okay. I like to say that what we call the mind, human mind, uh, there is thinking, of course, but that is not all. Only in human being there is this thinking, and there is a higher dimension than thinking, which we call awareness. So when this awareness is there, then thinking is not a problem. Thinking may, okay, you can watch it going, it won't create problem. But when there is no awareness, then this thinking will multiply and create conflicts, fear, anger, all that. So animals are much simpler. We cannot compare. We are more evolved. Our brain is more evolved than animals, and we have the capacity. And this uh, thought is coming because we have developed language, and we have a memory, and they combine, and there is a thinking comes. But that is not all. Awareness is hidden under dense layer of thinking, and for that awareness to arise, there needs to be a kind of a discontinuity in thinking, so that there is a gap is created between two thoughts, and through that gap maybe awareness can come, and and that awareness can then look at the thoughts from above. It can see very clearly what thoughts are doing. If anger is arising, this awareness can see that anger is arising, and that seeing becomes the action. So, like Krishnaji says, perception is the action. That is possible only when this new dimension called awareness, which can see what thinking is doing. And sometimes it may come and then go away, but in some cases, that awareness remains. It doesn't go away, and it can see whatever is coming. So, like Milind said something about understanding is only mechanical understanding. Once Krishnaji said in Rishi Valley, we were sitting there, and Krishnaji said, there is nothing to understand. And then Pupulji was there, and she said, sir, how can you say that there is nothing to understand in this field of thinking? You know? And again, Krishnaji said, there is nothing to understand. Do you agree? And everybody was silent. And I said, sir, I agree with you that there is nothing to understand. Then Krishnaji said, you tell Populji, why do you say that there is nothing to understand? So I said, there is only to see clearly what thinking is doing. Without that, one can use lots of thinking to understand thinking. It will create more and more words, more problems. And probably that is happening to the people who are very intellectual, and they can go on discussing for hours, and the brain can become sharp. But even if that another dimension is not awakened, then it will not solve. Person may still remain fearful, ambitious, angry, frustrated. All this problem can still remain in spite of gathering all the knowledge about those processes. Like Duryodhana said, I know what is dharma, what is adharma, but I cannot live. So our problem is that we are not able to see thinking clearly. through another dimension, not through thinking. And that is what Krishnaji talks about choiceless awareness. That is the difficulty.
So you mean to say that we should focus more on the awareness and we should remain with that instrument only of awareness.
We cannot decide also to be with awareness because it is not in our choice. Because choice means again there is an I who decides to become aware. It doesn't work that way. So, but this awareness can happen when a person is really not interested in just interested in looking, and something new happens, and then that person feels that something new has happened. He may not be able to convince other people that something new has happened because it is subjective. How Krishnaji is able to talk without any preparation because he has an insight into the whole process of thinking. So he's not afraid when he's faced the audience. He speaks from silence and clarity.
He has also discussed at various places about the energy of sorrow and various energies. So what was he was intending to say or indicating?
Energy of sorrow and conflict. Conflict can also generate a lot of
Conflict
energy,
also, yes, conflict.
but it is a
Confusion also
dissipative.
he,
It dissipates. You get tired after having conflicts. Even if you don't do any work, your mind, even not conflict with some other person, but within oneself. Should I do this? Should I not do that? That is a conflict. Conflict between what is and what should be.
in one
So
discussion
that,
he said,
yeah,
yeah, in one discussion he said that if you remain with the sorrow, then it will convert into passion and then passion will convert into the compassion.
yeah, that's possible. Yeah.
So what he
Yes.
was intending to say actually, in fact,
It is generally difficult for people to remain with sorrow. They always want to go to somebody and discuss, call somebody or like that. So very difficult. Like Krishnaji says, freedom is at the beginning also, he says, freedom to watch. So very difficult.
okay, sir, thank you.
May I say a few things?
Yeah,
I was just yes. So listening to both of you, actually, some thoughts which are coming to my mind is about thought itself. When we say that thought is or the thinking process is a natural process, can we question this? Why I'm saying so is because I see that when thought comes to my mind, or when the thought kind of arises, there are two ways to look at it. One is, of course, which is linked to the knowledge part of it. I'm doing some work and knowledge-based thinking happens, a thought occurs. That is easy to see there. But anything other than that, if it is arising, isn't it arising from something which is not understood, which is unresolved within me? So can I see that? Which means that, is it natural or is it unnatural in that sense?
It is a mechanical process, no?
It is a mechanical process, but we have to see where it is arising from. It is arising from something which I have not understood, something which I have got deeply conditioned at a conscious, subconscious, or an unconscious level, and I'm not aware about it. It arises. So I'm saying in that sense, it may appear to be natural, but my question is that, is it natural? The other thought which comes to my mind is that it is a thought which creates a thinker, but most of the time I find we give importance to the thinker, and thinker is trying to control the thought. but it is the thought which creates a thinker. Isn't that so?
Yeah. I accept this your standpoint that the thinking creates a thinker, and that is a problem. But otherwise, this thinking process is linked to your survival process, and that is but natural because of security and other reasons, and because of your evolution, so-called evolution, which mankind is saying, thought is a natural. Isn't
Yes,
it?
I mean, when we talk about the survival aspect of it, how much do you really need to survive? Three basic things in life like food, shelter, and clothing. How much do we really need to survive? But the whole idea of survival, we take it to a really great level where we feel that we cannot survive without many things in life. Actually, is it so?
Yeah, you are. I accept this thing, but man is a social animal, no? So
No, I
with
mean,
with
I
the
would say
time,
forget about the man as a social. I'm saying at our own individual level, is if it is clear in my mind, then it doesn't matter what the rest of the world is doing. If that is clear, then I live according to that. Isn't that the
but this
most
is the
important
sir
thing?
5,000. Krishnamurti himself has said that this is a 5,000 old story, and you are the world. So this is going to be continue. This will be
Sir,
there.
I think I think there is a
Must.
need to question. There is a need to understand this. Uh, I think there is much more needed at our own individual levels. I feel. I mean, that's my understanding. If I'm clear about it, as Krishnaji also said, to be alone is to be related.
So as Harshadji said, we can look
To
into
to
the
be
first
all,
step.
to
Yes,
be
sir.
all one, that is alone. But he meant. Harsha sir, would you please say something, because this argument is leading nowhere.
Yeah. Um, no, because we have learned a language and we have used thinking a lot during so many years of studying various subjects, thinking has become like a habit. And it will come because we have learned language, and when we are not aware, thinking will arise, something which we see on TV, some thoughts will arise about that, something we read in the newspaper. So thinking is not a problem. Uh, it will arise, but this other dimension, uh, that as long as it is not has come, awareness has not come, thinking will create many problems. But with awareness, thinking will not create. It's just like so many people walking in a dark room and they are colliding with each other. But if you turn on the light, then all these people who are walking in the room, they will not collide. They can see each other. So similarly, these thoughts are like people walking. And if there is a darkness, means no awareness, then thoughts will create many problems, many arguments, unnecessary problems also. So what we need is this light which can see thoughts coming and what it is doing, not to try to suppress thoughts, but just watching. And then it may come just like clouds come and go like that. So thinking is not a big problem.
Yeah, traffic of thought will become harmonious. You meant to say.
Yes, yes. It can be used also for creating something beautiful.
Harshad Parik sir,
Yeah.
Harshad Parik sir, I have got a message from Chidanandji. He
Uh-huh.
says next Thursday we
Uh-huh.
will have talk on education, freedom, lifelong learning.
Okay, good.
I have WhatsApp to that to you. I am WhatsApp. I am doing WhatsApp for Milind More sir and request him to come that
Yeah,
subject, so others can also prepare that. Please,
sure.
Anand sir, Anand God sir will ask some question. Please
Right.
reply.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, Anandji, you can ask question.
Yeah. So the question is about thinking. I mean, thinking arises because, I have not solved the problems which had taken place in my life. And my conditioning is that, I'm given a problem from the beginning. I'm taught 1+1 is 2. I mean, they give me a problem I have to solve. And functionally, that is okay. Psychologically, it becomes a problem. So I never really solve the problem. As long as I don't solve the problems, the thinking continues. So thinking is not natural. It is my own creation because I'm unable to solve the problem. So one has to see that, because again, my conditioning is I never remain with what is. So if there is a sorrow or suffering, I move away from it. So I never remain with it. So therefore, the thinking is alive. It wants to solve it. So when I say that, like, thinking arises because I'm unable to solve my problems, which is which are there in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, that is how I would look at it. That's how I look at
Yes.
the thinking, how it
Yes.
arises and why it continues.
Yeah.
That's about it, sir.
And I have not been able to solve this problem created by thinking because there is no clear awareness of how it is coming, from which source it is coming. So it is possible for human being to see clearly how the thoughts are arising and not to do anything, but just looking at it is enough to resolve the problem. That is what Krishnaji also says. In the light of awareness or silence, all problems are dissolved. That's what Krishnaji said. So our problem is having no awareness and thoughts multiplying.
Can I look at my conditioning, sir? And functionally, that I've been trained to solve problems. My father has died. There is suffering. How do I solve the problem?
Yeah.
I'm aware of what is happening. Awareness, once again, is in time. Awareness is in time.
Okay.
In time, I can't solve my problem.
Yeah.
When I say
Sorrow-
awareness is
yeah.
going to solve my problems or going to give me clarity, I'm questioning that, sir.
Yeah. The sorrow comes because there is an attachment to the father. If I am attached to somebody and that person dies, I feel deprived of all that thing which was coming from that person. So again, I have to look at this attachment. So all our problems are interrelated. When there is an attachment, then there will come, like I am attached to one person, that person is interested in somebody else, so jealousy will come. And then if that person doesn't do what I want, then anger will come. So all our psychological problems are coming from thinking, and from thinking coming, this me is important. So as long as this me exists, there cannot be love. So that's what Krishnaji also says. I'm not saying something new. I am not
don't know
saying
what
not.
Krishnaji says, sir. Okay, I mean, instead of taking my father, say in an accident, I lost my leg. All right. So I can't say, bring in a love or attachment. I lost my leg and I'm going through a lot of pain and suffering, that is there in my life. So I want to get away from it. And therefore my thinking is there. I mean, how do I get away from it?
Yeah. I have seen people, some videos in which some people, they don't have legs and no hands, and yet they are teaching people how to be free, be really happy. So human beings have this capacity or ability to find happiness within oneself. But it's extremely difficult, I would say, because most people don't want to look inward because there may be a lot of disturbance, lots of many problems. It's like a snakes guarding the treasure which is buried within us. So when we look inward, we see all these problems like snakes, and so we escape and we don't want to look at. But if we are not afraid, we can really look, tame these snakes, then we can really touch the treasure buried within us. And many people have done it. Not only Krishna ji, many people have done. Yeah.
This
May I,
question
may
on
I add
thinking
one
was
thing? May
raised.
I add one thing?
Yes, yes.
May I add one thing, sir?
Mhm.
Awareness is in time, but awareness is not of time. This should be
Yeah.
very line which should be clear. So number
Mhm.
of times we confuse that we are the awareness disguised as a person. We are awareness, definitely. But it is not of time.
Mhm.
This is the difference,
Yes.
I feel.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
this question about thinking was raised, and Mr. Millen said, I mean, someone said it's natural. Mr. Millen said it's not natural. So that is where I'm coming from. It is not natural. So how does it arise? Was the question. My conditioning from the time I've been born that I have to solve the problem. I've been taught in schools by my parents, by institutions, by colleges, my religion, everything says I need to solve the problem. they'll be giving me problems, I have to solve it. So I think I've solved the problems, but I have not solved it completely. It is there. It comes up in some other form. So therefore, can I see that thinking is there all the time? And like he said, it is not natural. It is my own creation. I'm not aware of it. That is my point. That's all I'm saying. I mean, Mr. Millen said something. I think I do agree with him that it is not natural. It's our own creation. I need to look at it as what it is. I need to seriously look at it.
Yeah. No, I don't think it is our creation. We are connected with many, many things around us, and we gather a lot of memories, experience, and we have language. And so all this comes by itself. Like suddenly some song comes to my mind. I am not creating the song because I had listened some days ago. It has come. I have not created when it is coming now. So we are not creating thoughts. Thoughts are coming, but we have the ability or possibility of looking at it, whatever is coming.
When you said
Sometimes,
thought about the song comes in, I mean, how does it just let us come in, sir? I mean, how do I mean, the moment I say it comes in, then can I see there's a fragmentation? I like something, so it is there in my mind. It gives me pleasure. I'm looking for pleasurable moments all the time, consciously or unconsciously. I'm aware of that is a question.
yeah, yes.
I would,
Even I would, yes, Milind, you can.
No, I would like to put something in a question form from listening to the conversations we are having is about the aspect of fact. Anandji some time back mentioned about the sorrow which one feels, suppose one's father has gone or son has gone. Uh, how does, or what is the relevance of fact in this? The fact is that so and so is gone. So what is it that I'm trying to get away from? I mean, in the sense of sorrow, of course, is a straight answer. But is sorrow a fact? The fact is the person is gone. My question is sorrow a fact? Or is there any way of getting away from this if I see that it is not a fact? So can I be with the fact? And I think that is the most difficult thing in our lives, to be with the fact. Most of the time, I think the mind is conditioned in a way that it is already beyond the fact. in terms of, wanting something, liking something, disliking something, pleasure, pain, becoming, achieving, and all that. And we miss out the fact in that process. So
Yes, sir. I also feel personally that this is not the only question of attachment to father. There are so many other relationship issues. It is a
Right.
complex process. It is not only related to attachment.
Hmm.
Sensitivity and sentimentality. These two aspects will also come into picture,
Right.
which
Yeah.
Krishnamurti ji has said at, with the discussing with the children.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I am having adjustment with
It
my
is.
father. I am having so many other duties. There are so many issues other are involved.
Yes, sir. Without going to the question that I'm attached to my father, I love my father, I don't love my father, can I see that my father passed away? And there is suffering. I mean, I do suffer for whatever reason. I'm not going to the reason. And my conditioning is that to escape from the suffering, can I look at that as a question? We've been conditioned to escape from all the problems. We think, I mean, they do solve, but they don't. Because I don't remain with it. Can I observe that is a question, sir? Not whether I love my father, I don't love my father, I'm attached to my father and things like
As
that.
Mr. More said, it's a very difficult to remain with the grief energy. The grief is the energy, and that to remain with that is also very difficult. It's not so easy.
That is precisely what I'm saying, sir. My conditioning is to escape. I have found escape. Can I look at that? I'm not looking at that. I said, can I look at that as a question? Somebody comes along and says, this is what is happening. Can you remain with what is?
Yeah.
Can I look at that? Can I seriously look at that? Am I seriously interested to look at that as a question too? Because because to be serious, I mean, it requires a lot of energy and it's also pain. It doesn't give you pleasure. It is hard work. A lot of hard work is required to be serious about it. But I mean, I'm not really interested. I'm not very sure. That's the point.
No, sir.
Sir, Parik sir,
Yeah.
I will request you to say something. Only 4
Yeah.
minutes are left. So would you please
Okay.
conclude? Would you please conclude?
Yes.
Sir, in between, I want to just say one thing.
Yeah.
See,
Okay.
if I'm not old enough and my father is handling all the things, then I will suffer more. Suppose I am more mature and father is quite old, and if he goes, then the grief will be less. So at that time, the handling of the situation will be easy. So this also to be considered.
All these are manipulations, sir. Wagmare sir, all these are
Yeah.
manipulations. Nothing more or less than.
No, you can see
So
this is a fact, sir. You can see in the world this happens.
let Harshad Parik conclude it. All the three speakers will be available in the next Thursday. You can discuss it.
Yeah.
So please let it be concluded by Harshad Parik sir. And if More sir wanted to say minute or 2 minutes, he is also welcome. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. When I was in Rishi Valley in 1997, I got a call from my brother saying that father has passed away. And so I said, oh, am I required to come there? My brother said no. So I said, okay. Yeah, because I did not have attachment to my father. And we had also very good relationship. My father came to know about Krishnamurti through me. And initially he said he would not touch anything other than Bhagavad Gita. And then I sent him a book, his commentaries on living. And he said, this is for people who have some psychological problems. But then he was not aware of his problems. But then as our conversation, correspondence increased, he began to come to know that, yes, what Krishnaji says is very, very true, that attachment creates suffering. And my father was attached to many things, to his family, to reputation, all that. So but I was not attached, though we had a good relationship. So that is why I am saying from my own experience. But yes, at one time I was attached to somebody very, very deeply, and then that relationship was broken, and then I suffered a lot. And from that suffering, I learned a lot about myself, just like Krishnaji learned when Nitya passed away. Krishnaji cried for 10 days. Similar thing also happened in my life. So it is possible for us to look at this suffering and not to escape from it. And we can really come out with a greater happiness and freedom from understanding this attachment or anger or fear, because the source is only me, I, and that comes from thinking. And so when a person is very much interested in looking at thinking itself, and
There
not
seems to be
because
a
one
problem
wants,
in the transmission.
yeah, not because a person wants to become free, but a person is very curious, not during dialogue, but thinking is going on all the time. And so we have the opportunity to look at thinking at on any day, at any moment. And when that curiosity comes, a lot of learning happens. And that gives a kind of a freedom. And then we know what is love and beauty comes only after that. Not before that, there is only attachment. So, okay, I have said enough.
Milind More, sir, do you
I
want to
would,
say something?
yes, just one sentence, or rather, it is a request from for both Sushil ji and Anand ji. Can we discuss the topic of death next week?
So next week subject is fixed. That is education, freedom, and lifelong learning.
Yes.
Chinmayanand ji, Chinmayanand ji, Chidanand ji, Harshad Parikh, and you are requested to dialogue on that.
Okay. If it is
And
already pre-decided,
other Thursday we can fix
yeah.
death.
Okay.
We can postpone death. Just enjoy it. We can postpone death for 2 weeks.
But there is the learning and understanding death, I think, is the highest among all.
Oh yeah, but the learning of life is learning of death.
Very right, sir.
If you
Very right.
learn, love is the same, life is the same, death is the same. I don't
Right.
see the way you have been taught. There is no hunger, there is no shelter. They all are psychological needs: food, sleep, and everything. And people do that. Number of days they don't sleep, they still continue to live. So the question you raised, that survival is also psychological. So with this joke, I end it here, and we will be meeting on Thursday with Milind More sir, with Harshad Parikh sir, and Chidanand. Subject I have already said. I repeat it: freedom, education, and lifelong learning. Thank you very much, particularly Anand sir.
Yeah.
I am thankful to you. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please close.